You're listening to Bookin' Around Town with Jacques on the Audio Flow.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. It's your girl Jacques with Bookin' Around Town. Happy Sunday to all of you today. I hope that you had a great week and are ready for another special week here in September. I can't believe that the year is almost over. I always tell people that once February goes away, we're pretty much at Christmas. Don't laugh. You know that the year has gone by pretty quickly. And we're about 3 months closer to Christmas. So Merry early Christmas, everybody. No, I'm just kidding. Well, I'm out here in the Midwest, so fall has already crept in on us a little bit. Goodbye, summer, and hello, fall. But with that, I have some good news. I get a chance to share and chat with you guys with an author who is out here, I won't say suffering, but enjoying the nice, cool, crisp Midwest weather, just like me. So today's guest, we have Adriana Locke, who is USA Today and an Amazon top 10 best-selling author. She lives, like I said, in the Midwest, and after years of slightly obsessive relationships with the flawed bad boys created by other authors, Adriana created her own. So here we are going to talk about her latest release, Swink, which came out last month, and her upcoming release this week, September 7th, with the lucky number 11. Please help me welcome Adriana Locke. Good afternoon, Adriana. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing just well. As you can see, you can't see, duh, because this is all audio. And you told me that we were not doing video because you didn't want to share your bad hair with me, but
So true. Not till Thursday. We could have videoed Friday, not today.
Okay, yeah. Well, next you're gonna share pictures, so I will be looking for those pictures. But I'm doing okay. But my voice is a little crazy with the weather changes and Christmas is almost here, so I'm pretty sure I'm gonna sound like this until the end of the year. And maybe I should get a 900 number and try to make some Christmas money or something.
You should. You should record audiobooks. You have the voice for it right now, you know.
I do. I have audiobook voice. That's so funny. It only comes two times a year. And see, did you hear that? It's like when a little boy is in puberty and their voices start to change. You're probably experiencing that or will experience that with your boys, right?
I will. My oldest son's 15, and so he's in the throes of, his voice is pretty much lowered already.
Mm-hmm.
And when I call and I'm like, this cannot be my baby. My second son, I have four. My second son is 13. He just turned 13. So he's starting to kind of, get a little deeper. And it's crazy. It's a crazy morning when everybody wakes up and they have morning voice anyway. And then all of a sudden they're changing. It's interesting.
I love it. I love morning voice. As morning voice, everybody's down an octave or two, but it's afternoon right now and I still have morning voice. So, but I did it just for you because, I wanted to give you my sexy voice. So Adriana, there's my sexy
I appreciate
voice.
that.
It's just for you.
I feel so special. I love it.
You are special. So you've had a busy year. Tell me what's been going on before we get to your latest release and your upcoming release. You've had a busy summer. What have you been doing? Writing? Any traveling with the kids? Anything with the family?
I've been writing a ton. I've released more books this year than I've released before. But we've been doing a lot of sports. My three youngest boys play baseball. My youngest son's on 3 different baseball teams. And so we are traveling over Indiana, Illinois, all summer. We're gone more than we're not, but they love it. And it's what they do. And it's one of the sacrifices, I guess, that you have to make, because baseball is not my favorite thing. It's probably one of my least favorite things, to be honest with you.
Oh.
So we did a lot of that and just a lot of hanging out because my kids are so active and they wrestle and they do cross country running, which makes me think they may not even be my children. So we just kind of really relaxed and hung out and went to an amusement park and, watched a lot of movies and just kind of enjoyed having them because, my oldest, like I said, is 15. I'm not going to get his undivided attention much longer.
No, you're not. And I can't believe you still have some of it right now at 15. Maybe, I'm pretty sure after this school year, it's just, hey, mom, and I'm sorry, but that's pretty much the extent. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I don't mean that. It sounds like you guys had a good summer. Your family is really into sports. Does that mean you're not that into sports then?
I love sports.
Okay. Just not
I love
baseball.
it. Just
Not
not
baseball season.
baseball. It just takes too long,
It
and there's
does.
no contact. I like the contact sports. Football's my favorite. All of my readers, all of my friends know football is my thing.
Yes.
And none of my kids play it, which is hysterical. Not one of
Oh,
them. I'm like, I have
no.
4 of you. None of you want to do this, really?
You're like, really? You don't want to do this for mom? Can you just do this for mom, please? Pick a sport that I like. Contact sport, football. Football's great. But I agree with you. Baseball is long and it can be a little boring. I mean, outside of having a beer and
Yes.
a hot dog if you go into a game. But other than that, I mean, you know, you're just watching the ball fly across and you hope somebody hits it. That's
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, okay, well, at least we're in September. Everybody's back at school, and you have some time in the house now with just you and more writing. And you just had a release last month, and I really want to get into that because I see on Amazon that it received its bestseller, Orange Flag, and of course, I'm talking about Swink, and it did release in July. So you are USA Today and Amazon top 10 best-selling author. So when you see that flag or you receive the news that you've hit a list, does it get any less overwhelming than it was the first time that happened, or do you still have that same excitement where you want to do a cartwheel and dance in the middle of the floor or something?
It's so exciting to me every time I publish a book and anybody reads it. I always sort of go in to my releases thinking, okay, this is the book that no one's going to identify with. This is the one that no one's going to care. And so it's really exciting to me to see the orange flags and, to see the books do well. They're kind of like your children and you just want them to be accepted and you want them to be loved like you love them. And it's always exciting. I don't think it ever stops being exciting. And I think
Mhm.
if it ever stops, if I ever stop feeling like the just elation that I wrote something that someone responds to, that's the day I'll stop writing. That's what you write for.
Yeah, and I get excited when authors get that orange flag because um, that means that, again, there's so many people that like it and not just like it, but they bought it. And it's not just from people who, they got an art copy, or maybe they did get an art and they still bought it anyway. And then they're telling their friends, and other people are telling their friends, and it's about your brand. And so you get those people who know your name, Adriana Locke, and they just one click it anyway. So, which I love. So, do you have authors that you normally, that you read or that and you follow or stalk like the rest of us, and you just kind of one click them? You don't care what the book is about. You just automatically buy it.
Oh, absolutely. I have been on a Jana Aston kick since I picked up one of her books last year. I was a little
Hmm.
late to the Jana Aston train, but once I hopped on, I buckled in for the long haul. I will read anything. I love her writing. It's so fun. I love her heroines. They're so quirky and they're so
Yeah,
lovable, but they're smart and they're strong, and I love her writing.
yeah.
Um, Gail McHugh hasn't released in a while, but if she would just pop up tomorrow with a book, I would click it. I wouldn't even read the synopsis. I would just buy it
Hmm.
and dive in. I love her writing just so much. There are so many. I mean, I think I spend half of my time on Facebook going through watching what everyone else is doing and one clicking all these books I'll never have time to read, just like everyone else. I always say I'm a reader before I'm a writer. I
Uh,
think if you don't have the love of reading, I don't know how you could love to write. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah, well, sort of, kind of, because I'm a reader and I don't write very much, but I understand what you mean. You have to kind of know both sides and love both of them before you can be good at the other, I think. So that makes a lot of sense. But I will tell you how I became familiar with your work. And I didn't tell you the story because I almost forgot. But so I started listening to audiobooks. I want to say it was last year, even though it seems longer than that, but it was last year. And I just happened to be going through audiobooks. I don't even know if I won this. I don't know, but wherever it leads, that was my first book that I
Oh,
listened to, and and I didn't read it. I listened to it, like I said, and that was and it's so funny. I just had interviewed Leah Langola on the show, and so that's when it all came back. I was like, I know this book. I know this narrator, and so and so it all came full circle. And now I want to go back and listen to it again. But it was such a good book. So I just kind of want to know where you get your
thank you.
ideas from. Some of your stories. I know that you have the Landrys, which is very, very, very popular, and then you have Wherever It Leads, which I think is it was a standalone book. It wasn't a series. So where do you kind of get your ideas or your concepts about um, at least this book, Wherever It Leads? Because I mean, I really enjoyed it. Man, there was 513 reviews about it. Pretty much. I mean, so obviously I wasn't the only one, but um, just kind of want to get an idea about where that story came from.
Well, first, I want to say thank you for listening to it. And Leah did a fantastic job. Most of my books are dual narration, my audios, but she was so good in Wherever It Leads that I was like, yeah, just do it. Like, just you record it. It's perfect.
Hmm.
Um, but that story is actually my best selling title of all time.
Oh,
And it
yay!
is the standalone. It was the one that sort of is my best ranking book also ever, which always makes me smile because when I ask readers, which book of mine's your favorite or whatever, usually Fenton is not up there, but I'm like, but y'all read him.
Yeah.
Because, but that story I actually had in a dream, which is the only story that's ever came to me that way. And I sort of woke up and I grabbed a piece of paper and I'm scribbling. And my husband's like, what are you doing? It's like 6 a.m. And I'm like, I have to write this down. I'm going to forget it. So the basis of that story came from a random dream that I had, and I sort of twisted around and wrote it. I wrote it actually really, really quickly. It actually I felt like that story was already there. It's one of the only stories, probably. I only have had two stories like that where I feel like before I start writing, I can see the whole thing.
Hmm.
So that's where Fenton came from.
I like this story. I like that it's interestingly enough, it's your you said your highest ranking, but there should be an orange flag there. And so I feel like when I put out a promo on your page, I'm gonna make a little banner just to put across the top. So I'm gonna make up my own banner and attach it to this book. Besides, everybody talks about book covers and things like that. And the book cover, I mean, there's this hot guy. See his abs. I'm counting the packs here. One, two, three. There's like
Right?
6 packs here. But I mean, okay, yeah. So I am kind of oogling the cover. Maybe I should stop doing that. But I like book covers, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I picked up the book, because that's always the first thing that I see. And just like in the Landry Family series, I love the covers. They're very consistent. So you look at them, you know automatically that it's a part of this series. So how much influence did you have in creating the book covers for that series?
I work with a cover designer named Carrie March, and I work with her. She's done all of my book covers, and she just understands what I'm trying to say. So I came to her with the idea for the series and basically let her know what the series was about. A family is on the upper crust of society, but are very relatable, or I hope that they're very relatable. And I let her know I wanted the covers to feel sophisticated and fun and flirty, but I didn't want them to be, you know, too sexy, too
Yeah.
overtly sexy. I didn't want the colors too bold. I wanted them to be very pretty and easy on the eyes. And I think Sway, which is the first book in that series, that was one of the very first, maybe the very first mock-ups she sent me. And I was like, that's it. You've nailed it. Like, that's exactly what we're looking for.
Don't you
So
just
I'm really excited.
Yeah, don't you just love when somebody kind of can take what you see, your vision, and incorporate that into art and just nail it, and you automatically look at it and you're in love and you're like, that's it, instead of saying, well, can you go back and change such and such? Doesn't it just seem like um it's kind of divine intervention? Can I use that term?
Absolutely. You really see, like, but go back to the covers wherever it leads. When I had sent her a picture that I had found, and it was a guy that was shirtless. I think he may have had a partial shirt on or something. And I said, I really want this kind of maybe black and white with like some red lipstick looking stuff.
Uh-huh.
Or purple, I think I said, like lipstick looking, like that's how I kind of see it. And she sent me this back and she said, I think this is what you mean. And it
Uh-huh.
wasn't the font, it wasn't the image that I had sent her, it wasn't the colors, but that's exactly what I had wanted.
Yeah.
And so I think the great thing about her is that she listens to what you're saying. And I write books and I'm not a very visual person. So she listens and can kind of take what I'm getting at and
Mm-hmm.
can really make that happen. And like you said, it's sort of divine intervention when that lands in your inbox.
Yeah, and then it's one of those things where you have this relationship now with this person who gets you and gets your work and understands you, and so you know that you can go to her and say, this is the concept I have, and you trust it, and then you get the final copy, and you just continue to write, knowing that she's got your back with the covers. So, cheers to her.
Absolutely.
Cheers. And you know what's funny? Okay, so in case you didn't know, I'm a cover snob. So that's the first thing I look at. In case you didn't know, I mean, I kind of mentioned it a
I
little
didn't know. It
bit.
makes me happy.
I'm a cover snob. And so I'm looking at the covers, and I think you have this like for um curvy fonts, or because I see these S's and they all are similar with this kind of like curvy, swirly something. Now, do you write like that? Are you a swirly writer? 'Cause
Sometimes.
sometimes.
If I'm writing a note to the kids' schools or, like a grocery list, I am sort of more swirly. But I actually had a job once where I did subcontract agreements for a construction company, and
Mhm.
you had to write, it's like a random, I don't know why I'm telling you this, but you had to write in all equal sized letters in all caps, and it had to be very clean and crisp and precise. So I almost think that my love of the curve is because I spent 6 years writing in all caps that were the same size. And it's sort of like I'm defiant now. Like, watch me swirl this outside of the lines.
You're a rebel. You're a total rebel now.
I am. And when you get older, like you start like rebelling in like the dumbest ways, but whatever.
I'm going to script this font and I'm going to make it really big. The S is going to be bigger than all the other letters. Nothing's going to match at all. That's it. I love it. I love
Exactly.
it. Well, okay, so you mentioned a little bit about your previous work in contracts and things like that. So when did you get the bug to write? When did you get that itch or that, I don't know, that push to say, okay, I'm going to write my first book. I'm just going to go all in with it and see what happens.
So when I was a little girl, I wanted to be an author, actually. And my mom still has in her closet this pink Barbie doll suitcase, and it's this plastic, it looks like a briefcase, and it's like bubblegum pink, and it's got the darker pink locks that slide on the front,
Uh-huh.
and they're full of these stories that I wrote that my friend Jenny would come over and like illustrate, like about the baker or whatever. And then I sort of fell away from it and wanted to go into law, so I don't know how those are exactly related, but
Yeah.
whatever. So one day, it was a few years ago, and I remember it was in February, and it was really cold and snowy, and my kids were at my mom's, and my husband and I were sitting in the living room, and I was like, there's nothing I want to read, and I was paging through my Kindle, and he was like, seriously, how many books are on that thing? And I look, and I tell him, I didn't tell him there was more, like not, in the cloud. I was just kind of keeping that, so he didn't start looking at the credit card bills or anything. And he was like, okay, well, if there's nothing you want to read, then you should write something that you want to read. And I was like, but I can't write a book. I would be so bored by like chapter 5. I could never finish it. And he was like, I really think you could. So I started it as a joke that night, like, okay, fine, I'm going to write a book. And I wrote it, and it was the exception. And I wrote it for on and off for a couple of months. I would pull it out and kind of write it and then put it away, and then pull it out and kind of write it and put it away. And I hit a point where I feel like probably 20% where I felt like I knew my characters and I had to see it end. And it became sort of a competition with myself to finish it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then I finished it, and I had this book, and I didn't plan on publishing it. And I sent it to a couple of my friends. I'm like, look what I did. Like, you know what I mean? Just joking around, sort of. And then they were like, you should publish it. You should at least see what it's like to publish a book. And I did. And I've published 12, 13 more.
That's amazing. I love that when I have these conversations with authors, they're very similar to some extent. Some say, I always wanted to be a writer, or I enjoy reading. So it's kind of one of the two, like you spoke of earlier. And then they kind of got somebody else to not persuade, but encourage them to do it. And ever since, so we should really thank your husband for telling you to go ahead and write that book. And thank you for not telling him how many books you had in the cloud and only telling him what was on your Kindle device. So that probably was smart too.
Yeah, if I told him, the book would never have been written, because he probably would have killed me.
Exactly, because then he would have said, well, you need to go read those other 800 books that, you have on the cloud, which, yeah, that's me, that TBR list, that TBR that just keeps growing and growing and never shrinks. So I totally get that. And so I'm looking at the cover too, because again, like I told you, I like to look at covers, and I see this guy on the cover has kind of this scruffy beard type thing, which is almost a theme in some of these books. Is that something that is a personal thing for you, or who is your muse for most of the male characters in your book?
Oh, it's different. Each character has a different muse, but I would say if I had to generalize my type or my sort of default,
Yeah.
muse-wise would probably be Charlie Hunnam, who I really feel like cannot do much wrong. I like him when he's heavier. He is. If I don't have somebody in mind, I'm like, oh, well, just Charlie Hunnam's the answer. But he really doesn't fit a lot of my characters. But if I had to pick one sort of generalization, that's who I would pick.
Okay, not Tom Brady, right?
No, anybody but Tom. So I'm a huge Patriots fan, as you know, and we're in the same state, and we're not in a state that is nice to the Patriots, but they are my team, because Julian.
No, we can't be friends anymore.
But just let me send you some emails. I will convince you. Julian Edelman without a shirt can convince anyone.
Okay, go ahead. I just saw I'm like, really? You can't. How can you be a Patriots fan being a Hoosier? I'm just saying. That's not. I know. Funny. What's up with that? That's just wrong on so many levels that I don't even know what else to say to you right now.
I used to hate them. Terribly hate them. And then one of my best friends is from Boston, and she kind of wore me down with these pictures of Julian Edelman. And so I finally kind of had to, but I always say, I am a Patriots fan, but I'm more of a Julian Edelman fan. If he leaves and goes to another team, I will follow him. My loyalty lies with 11. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm okay that you are a fan of one person on the team and not necessarily the team itself, because I don't know about, I can't accept that.
It's hard to swallow, isn't it?
You know what's, and it's weird. I'm sitting here. I'm wearing right now I'm wearing a football shirt. It's actually the Ravens. So if you had a secondary team, who would be your secondary team?
Dallas. When I was a little girl, 13, I fell in love with a commercial on CMT. Troy Aikman was the quarterback, and he was dating a country music star named Lori Morgan.
Uh-huh.
And he did this commercial where I can remember the commercial. I fell in love with this man. He was laying on this couch with his legs and he was throwing this football up in the air and basically just saying, watch CMT television or whatever it was. And went into the kitchen of my dad. You need to paint my bedroom. And we painted my bedroom blue. I got the border. I had a pillow. My mom went to the grocery store and he was a spokesman for Frito-Lay's. And there was a big cutout of him holding this thing of potato chips. And she got them to give it to her when they were done with the promotion. And he was in the corner of my bedroom. So I'm always a little soft to Dallas. I'll never root against Dallas.
I love it. Okay, so we can stay friends then. We can totally stay friends because that's my number one favorite team too. So, but you have a life-size Frito chip holding Troy Aikman in the corner of your bedroom. I can't beat that. I just can't. I'm kind of jealous.
I did. I loved it. He was my first celebrity crush, besides Patrick Swayze, whom I think most of the women of our generation, I'm assuming you're about my age.
Yeah.
Patrick Swayze in Dirty Dancing was just amazing. But besides him, saying he's a given, Troy Aikman was my first, my little obsession.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Okay, so now we have to go back to number 11 because your book is releasing this week on the 7th, if I'm not mistaken, September 7th. And
yes.
So let's talk about, and it's a sports romance, duh. So give us the skinny on how you came about with this book.
I've always wanted to write a football romance because I haven't, and I've done sports romances. My other sport that I love is fighting, boxing, mixed martial arts, and I have two of those characters in Swing and Sacrifice. And I've written a basketball coach and written in the Scars, and I've written a baseball player in Swing, and never have written a football player, which seems randomly odd. So yeah. I decided when I signed on to the expose project, which is what Lucky Number 11 is incorporated in, I thought I'm going to write a football book. And so we were joking around with titles and trying to find something that fit the idea of the book. And Lucky Number 11 surfaced and I fell in love with it and I thought it was funny and it kind of really fit. You hear authors talk about passion projects. This book was written for me. I think you have to do that sometimes. You have to write something that you just want to write from whether anybody else loves it or not.
Right.
And that's what this is for me.
Yeah, I think that a lot of authors do have that one book where they're like, okay, this was just mine. I don't care if nobody buys it. It's mine. It makes you want to sign it to yourself. Dedicate it to yourself. and so again, I'm looking at the cover and I might need to drink some water. Just need to probably crunch on some ice. Hey guys, if you have not seen the cover, I'm just saying it's very lucky.
Pretty hot.
Especially where
it's very lucky.
the words 11 and lucky land on the book cover. I'm just gonna stay right there because I feel like, okay, Adriana, I'm a Black girl, right? We don't blush, but I just blushed, and I think I just kind of turned really uncomfortably red.
I'm going to take that as a complete win.
It's a big win. I think 11 is you know what? My birth month is in November. So 11 is very lucky for me. And so this book is for me too. I'm going to just go ahead and jump in that. So, okay. So what can I read the blurb?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Excuse me, everybody. I'm going to read this to you in my sexy voice. Okay. People say not to believe the things you read in magazines, but you know what? Most things you've heard about me are probably true. I totally banged the reporter in the locker room after the championship game last year. Those pictures in expose from last summer, those were not modified. I'm also not really 6 foot tall, but let's keep that between us. Now, I know you're wondering about the last expose headline, the one about me and my teammate and ex-best friend, Ben Miller's sister, Layla James. That one is a little more complicated. Here's the thing. I've played football my whole life. If there's one thing I know, is how to adjust when the game changes. And if there's one thing I always do, it's find a way to win. Granted, the stakes are higher. The playbook has changed. There's more on the line than another MVP title. But guess what hasn't changed? Me. I'm still Branch Lucky Best, and I'm not about to fumble this one. Grab a seat and a subscription to Expose. I'm about to make some headlines again. Everybody, the book is releasing this week. I gotta have it. I gotta have Lucky Number 11. Probably, I just need the paperback. I need a paper. You know what? I need to just print this out, the cover, and hang it on my wall in my office. Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. So, did your cover designer design this one as well?
She did. She did.
Man. She really. Did you do a photo shoot for this guy, or was this like a stock photo?
That was a stock image that we found looking around for the right football picture. I was like, I don't want shoulder pads. It has to be sexy. And I don't normally do ab covers. Like, that's just not my style. Mm-hmm. But I was like, for this story, I think we have to have the perfect set of abs.
God, everything about this book cover is perfect. I mean,
thank you.
Offline, I will tell you some other stuff I think about it. But because this episode is sort of PG-13, I won't mention it. But yeah, I'm excited about that one. And so after this book releases, anything else we should be looking forward to that's going to come out? Any little secrets you want to share with us?
Well, I am working right now on a book called Crank, and it is the first book in a brand new series called the Gibson Boy series. And it will come out in November, so not very long away. Mm-hmm. And what I've done is the Landry series got pretty long. I think it's 5 books, and there's one sister left, Sienna. Mm-hmm. And I feel like a lot of readers, some of them don't like to read the 6-book series, and some of them don't want to jump in, even though each of those books are standalones. Mm-hmm. They're like, I don't want to. I feel like I have to go back and read them all. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. So I felt like I could take her and start a new series with a new group of people in a different place, and that way readers that love the Landrys will still peek in at them, and we'll still, get some updates on Graham and and Lincoln and whatever. But you can start here and not have to know who the Landrys are, and really kind of get started on a new cast of characters that are more blue collar, more sort of salt of the earth. Mm-hmm. I'm really excited to get that one out to everyone. We're about halfway done with it at this point, and I think the Landry readers specifically, the people who like the family style and that sort of a feel of a story, I think they'll like Crank.
Okay. And so do you have an idea about how many books will be in that series?
We have planned 3. I mean, and I have the option there's some side characters that I've already fallen in love with, that if I wanted to write a story, afterwards about them and add it into the series, I totally could. Mm-hmm. But I never like to plan too many. When I planned the Landry series, for example, I just had 3 books planned for that and sort of added the rest of them on as I went. So that's I've used the same model in a way for the Gibson boys.
When you write, do you outline and say, okay, this is how this story is going to go, or are you kind of a freelance, let the characters kind of lead you right type person? Or do you have a big storyboard or something?
I outline. I could never be a pantser, which is what people call themselves, that sort of fly by the seat of their pants and just kind of let it happen. Mm-hmm. I outline. So I normally will take a story, and this is the beginning, the middle, and the end. These are the big points that I'm going to hit. And then I go back and I link them together a little bit. This is how I'm going to get them from A to B, from B to C. And then I go back and try to put in some things that will be interesting to help bridge each of those little pieces. And then I give them some freedom to kind of do what they want to do in the chapter, as long as we get to where that next point is. And it kind of keeps the writing process fun, because mm-hmm. I let the characters kind of do and kind of, take control based on how their personality changes, because it's never what you think it's going to be. But it also makes sure that I get to where I need to be. Otherwise I feel like my stories would be like 200,000 words and we would know like birth to death. I would just
Yeah,
write it all.
like the Bible. You
Yes, I
just
would be so sidetracked.
I love to hear different people's writing style, and how they and their process and how they think, and so when you're writing, and you mentioned a little bit about in the new series about the side characters, how often do you get into your story and then that side character, especially with readers, do they come back and say, oh, I really liked such and such, which was like a second or third dairy? Is that a word? I don't even know if that's a word, but you get the secondary, you got the third dairy, which is a word that I'm using today, character. And they're coming back like, this person needs a story. Do you get that often?
I get it more often than I thought that I would.
Mm-hmm.
In Sacrifice, Crew has a friend, and it's a secondary character named Will. I get asked for his story weekly. There's a character written in the scars named Cord, and he is sort of a third dairy character that readers request, but I will never write. Like, I'll just say that flat out. I will never write Cord's story for a lot of reasons. If you've read the book, you probably know. But there's a character in the Landry series named Troy, and he's
Mm-hmm.
Barrett's bodyguard. But you find out that he had been in the military with Ford, Barrett, one of Barrett's brothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I get asked for his story quite a bit. And then Dominic, who's the hero in Swink, the last book in the Landry series, he has a brother named Nate,
Mm-hmm.
and his name has been surfacing a lot. And it's fun. It's fun when readers want that. It makes you, because I really try to work on secondary characters. They're important to me. I know when I read, oftentimes I fall more in love with a secondary character than I
Yes.
do the original character.
Yeah.
Christy Bromberg has a series called the Driven series, and Colton
Mm-hmm.
is the star of that series. I'm in love with Beckett, who got a book later, but that whole series, I just wanted him to pop. I waited for him to pop into the scenes. So I
Mm-hmm.
tried to really focus on that in my writing, because I know that when I read, that's something that I like. So I love when readers love those characters. It doesn't always mean that I can flesh out a story for them, but I love the fact that they want them.
Yeah. So we agree on that because I had a hashtag that says I love the other guy. And it's because usually usually everybody's, all book boyfriend and coupling up with the main guy in the story that's already, attached to the heroine or whatever. And I'm like, no, I want the best friend, or I want the brother or the little brother. I mean, not the little brother, because that would just be
That's,
creepy.
yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like,
I follow you. Same
oh,
page.
the person that's legally of aged brother in the story, and I'm like, yeah, I want that person. What's up with them? Maybe they can write a story about them. And I think that secondary characters are kind of like ice cream and cake. So you have the cake is kind of the main thing, but that ice cream, once you put that ice cream with that cake, you have the perfect dessert. And so sometimes I just want ice cream by itself. So you liked that, didn't you? That was good.
That analogy is perfect. I'm just sitting here with my jaw like, yeah, I like that. Because it's exactly right. Like, I love the way you phrase that.
Well, thank you. And it's really because I'm hungry. So most of my analogies come out of when I'm hungry, I give good food analogies. And I love ice cream and cake together. I can't eat them separate. I have to have them together. But, every now and then you want a milkshake. It's still ice cream. It's just in a different form. So there you go, everybody. Jock's favorite snack is cake and ice cream. But she can eat ice cream by itself if it's in a shake. So those secondary characters, they're my milkshakes. I like strawberry shakes. So okay, we know you've got a busy rest of the year. We've got some great books to look forward to. And I want to know, are you going to be doing any events or any appearances this year where we can go and find you and perhaps get some books signed, some pictures taken?
Yeah, next month towards the end of the month, I think it's the weekend of the 27th. I'll be in Love in Vegas at Planet Hollywood in Las Vegas, which is the only signing my husband is like, can you sign it? Can you try to get that one? Like, yeah, okay, great. You're going also here, but can you try to? He just wants to go to Vegas, so he's very supportive of that signing. But I'll be there next month in October.
Okay.
And that's a great signing. If you've never been, it's a blast of a weekend.
It's
It's one of the
Vegas. It has to be a
it's
blast of a weekend. Yeah.
It's Vegas, and so many of the authors just hang out like around
Hmm.
the hotel and the bar, and I feel like readers can really sort of interact with us
Yeah.
at that signing. It's not so much like a quick boom boom boom. There's also a meet and greet that people you can really mingle, and that's what I like to do when I go to a signing. I like to talk to the readers and get to know them because I see them online, and I to put a face to a name, and
Yeah.
it's pretty special. And then in February, I'm going to Holiday with the Bells in Dallas, so I'll be going to the stadium there to see that.
So jealous.
We went to Patriot Stadium last well, when did I went to Boston. I can't remember what month, April I think. So I saw the Gillette Stadium. So now I get to see Dallas's stadium, which is a big deal to me. And
Yes.
then I do Phoenix next fall, and I think I'm doing Philadelphia next fall. So that's all that I have, I think, set up right now. I don't do a whole lot of signings. I have too many kids, and I don't want to miss anything that they do.
So you're doing, are you, so next year you said you'll be in Phoenix. Is that for the love of books in Phoenix? Or is that a
I'll
different
be
one?
honest, I don't remember what the name of it is, but I believe that it's in October. So
That's
that's
okay. We'll find it. Do you keep your information on your website or on your Facebook page in case anybody wants to go back and look and see where they can kind of go and find your lovely face?
yes, thank you. It's at www.adrianalocke.com, and there's a tab there. I think it's under Meet Adriana. It's called Events, and I keep that updated with all of the information as where I'm going, what the dates are, where to get tickets. There's usually a clickable link there for you if you're wanting to, like, oh, I'm going to go there, I'm going to buy tickets. So all of that information is always there. I keep my website updated all the time. So it's really the best place. I mean, I'm on Facebook all the time because I'm a woman in my mid 30s. I think we all are. But my website really is the home of all of my information. So
Okay.
it's the best place to always kind of look to see what's happening.
Sounds good. And since you are on social media, I know that people can go to your Facebook, I mean, to your website and find you on social media. But what if people want to find you on Facebook directly? How can they find you and get in touch with you to join your reader group?
Yeah, so I have my Facebook page is facebook.com/author Adriana Locke. And we post there all the time. I also have a group called Books by Adriana Locke, and you can search that in your search bar on Facebook, or you can find me on my profile and send me a message and say, send me the link because I can't find it. And really, you can get a hold of me in any way, and I always answer. If it's around a deadline, it usually takes a little bit longer, but I do respond pretty quickly. And I also have a Goodreads group. So I know a lot of readers just don't do the Facebook thing, but they are active on Goodreads. So I have a group in there called All Locked Up. And we're not quite as active. We post in there 2 or 3 times a week, but it's also a place to kind of say hello if you're kind of, wrinkling your nose at Facebook, kind of like I'm not even doing that. That's another place where we hang out.
I like the wrinkling of the nose, and I love the name. You know what? I've never been really active on Goodreads for the groups because I just couldn't figure it out. I don't know. I'm just really slow about that. Or trying to join them. It's hard to do from your phone, but if you're on your computer all day long, you can do everything. So I might have to try to give it a go again and not seem like I'm so ancient that I don't know how to use something online. It just
Well,
sounds bad.
the Goodreads groups are not as user friendly, which is why we don't use them quite
Yeah,
as much as we use the Facebook groups. They're sort of very clunky and
yeah.
they feel like a dinosaur of the technological era. Like, I don't know why they haven't updated the responsiveness and, the difficulty that people have of posting and commenting. And it's not user friendly. And I think
Okay.
that that's a detriment of Goodreads. They need to fix that.
Yes, that makes me feel better. That makes me feel less like, I don't know what I'm doing. And maybe it's not just me, it's their system. Their
No,
system's
we all feel
antiquated.
that way.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Adriana. You made
We
me feel so
all
much
feel that
better.
way.
Well, thank you so much for joining me today on Booking Around Town. It has been such a pleasure chatting with you. Congratulations on your upcoming release. lucky number 11. And I can't wait to read it. Again, I'm staring at the book cover again. I can't wait to read it. And I hope that everyone out there grabs a copy and leaves a review. And let's try to make this book capture the flag, the orange flag,
Capture
that
the
is.
flag.
Yes, capture the flag. So, well,
Well,
thank you
thank you so
again.
much for having me. It's been
You're
so
wel-
nice talking to you, and I'm honored to be here. And you took a few minutes out of your day to chat with me. I appreciate it very much.
you're welcome. You are also welcome to come back anytime. So maybe I will see you at one of those events next year, and your hair will be perfect, and mine will be too, and we can take some pictures and do a live video.
That would be fantastic.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this week on Booking Around Town. Be sure to follow us on Facebook at Booking Around Town, also on Twitter at Booking Around TWN, and Instagram at Booking Around Town. We are also streaming this episode and our shows on iHeartRadio and TuneIn. They are also downloadable on iTunes and Google Play, and you can also find us on YouTube. So we're on every platform. Thanks again to my producer, Danielle at Firefly Productions, and my assistant for keeping everything smooth running and sounding good. Until next time, everyone, keep booking. Bye.